Hello YouTubers. So what I've got on the scale here is 26.05 grams of gold powder. This is the powder I collected last year that I had not yet refined. I showed you this in my last video, which was my year-end weigh-in. So this is the powder I have collected from electronic scrap, but I have not yet refined and melted down into buttons or bars. What I am going to start doing today is refining this gold, because it's pretty dirty gold. This gold has been precipitated from solution once only, and it came out of a lot of pretty dirty solutions. Most of this gold came from IC chips that were dissolved in acid. Some of it came from gold plating that was stripped off of connectors and pins using the Eco Goldex gold stripping solution. But it's dirty gold. There's probably a lot of copper in it. There's probably some zinc. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some tin, some lead. There's probably a fair amount of platinum group metals in it. If I melted this down, it would make a really ugly looking bar. It wouldn't have a nice mirror finish to it. It would be ugly. And that's because it's not pure. There's also probably some various garbage in there, some insoluble stuff. So we're going to purify this. And this will probably be a multi-day video, because it's starting a little late in the day today. It won't matter for you because I'll edit it all together into one video. It'll probably be a little long because there's going to be a lot of steps in this process. But I will try not to be too repetitive, and where I do have repetitive steps, I'll sort of gloss over it. So, first thing we need to do is redissolve this gold in aqua regia. So I got a very clean beaker over here. We're in the purification stage now, so everything has to be very, very clean so we don't introduce more impurities to the gold than we're trying to take out. And so I'm going to dump this gold in this beaker, and then I'm going to redissolve it in aqua regia. And I'll show you that when I get set up for it. Alright, the first step in the repurification process. I'm going to redissolve the gold down here in aqua regia. So I'm going to make aqua regia. I'm going to put a few hundred milliliters of muriatic acid in this beaker. About 250 milliliters in. That's probably more than required, but what the heck. I'm going to turn the heat on. Not very high, just sort of medium heat. I just want it to warm the acid up to about 80 C. That's where aqua regia does its best work. And I don't know if that's showing up on the camera or not, but a lot of that gold is actually floating. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. Probably not. But the fact that a lot of that gold is floating tells me it's pretty dirty gold. It's contaminated with probably some oils and stuff. So we definitely need to clean this stuff up. Okay, so we got the gold in there, we got the muriatic acid in there. Now it's time for some nitric acid. Where's my pipette? Over here. Didn't have it handy, unfortunately. Now, I'm going to be real conservative with the amount of nitric acid I use, because I don't want to have a lot left over. So that is just under 2 milliliters right there. And I will put in about that much again. And one more time. So we've got just under 6 milliliters, probably about 5 3/4 milliliters of nitric acid in there. And if it needs more to dissolve that gold, I'll put in a little bit more. But I'm going to be really conservative with it because I don't want to have to do a lot of denoxing at the end. I'm also going to put in, I've got a few milliliters of highly concentrated sulfuric acid here. I'm going to put in about a milliliter of that. And what that's going to do is that is going to turn any lead that might be there into lead sulfate, which is insoluble, and it will drop out of solution. I'll be able to filter it out later. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some lead there, because a lot of this, I mean, this is all this gold came from electronic scrap. Some of it from connectors, some of it from pins, a lot of it from IC chips. All that stuff gets soldered in. I know they've tried to take lead out of solder in the past, I don't know, decade or so, but a lot of this stuff is old. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some lead in there. So we'll get the lead out. Get the lead out, haha, as an insoluble sulfate and filter it out. So now it's just a matter of letting it warm up and start to dissolve the gold. And I'm going to close the doors and turn on the blower so that don't have to smell the fumes. And we'll be back when anything interesting is happening. Well, it's only been a few minutes, and we got some pretty furious bubbling going on in there, and some orange-brown fumes being evolved, and the liquid has turned orange. So we've created aqua regia, and it is starting to dissolve the gold. And I'm just going to let it go ahead and do its thing for a while. And when the brown fumes start to dissipate, I'll check and see if there's any gold powder left in it. If so, I'll give it another shot of nitric acid and put it back on the heat. But it's just a waiting game now. We'll be back. It's been a few more minutes. The reaction is starting to get really vigorous in there. The fume production kind of off the scale, and it's really bubbling away. So the gold is definitely going back into solution. Well, it's been I don't know, maybe 45 minutes or so, maybe a little longer. I wasn't really watching the clock. The reaction's kind of petered out. There's still a lot of gold powder down on the bottom of that beaker. So like I said, I've been really conservative with the amount of nitric acid I've been putting in. I'm going to put in just as much as I put in the first time. And we'll see how much of that powder dissolves. Because it looks like I probably haven't even dissolved half of it, I'm thinking. Oh, there's another almost 2 milliliters. Ooh, look at the... Wow, okay. This is hot now, so I got to be careful it doesn't bubble up on me, as the reaction restarted immediately. Yeah, wow, okay. So there's 4 milliliters, and I don't know if that's showing up on the video or not. That's really foamy. Oh, and really gassy. So I don't want to have a boil over. So I guess I got to be really conservative with the amount of acid I add when it's hot too. Not just because I don't want to overshoot with my amount of acid. I don't want it to bubble over either. Alright, so we'll let that addition of acid do its thing, and then we'll see if we need to add more. We probably will. It's only been a few minutes, and the reaction has slowed down dramatically. I mean, it's still going in there. It's still bubbling, but it's not eruptive like it was. So I'm going to put a little more acid in, because there's still a lot of undissolved gold in the bottom of that beaker. So I'm going to put it in slowly, though, just so we don't have anything terrible happen. Well, that's kind of weird. A whole lot of nothing happened with that addition. Let me put some more in. There it goes. There's obviously a time delay between the time I start putting the acid in and the reaction takes off again dramatically. So each of those additions again were just under 2 milliliters. I'll have to watch the video and see how much I've got in, but I think it's just probably a little under 7 now. And there's still a lot of undissolved gold in that beaker. I'm going to risk putting a little bit more nitric acid in there just because it's getting late. I just helped my wife pick some fresh vegetables out of our garden, and she's going to start cooking dinner soon. And I'm working outside. It's going to be getting dark soon. So this will probably be the last addition of acid tonight. I'll probably let this cook off, see how much gold it dissolves, and then shut everything down and pick up again tomorrow. Okay, nice vigorous reaction going on in there. Let's see how much gold is left after it all dies down. Alright, it's been maybe 15 minutes since that last addition of acid. Things have died down some. It really looks like a lot of, I know it's hard to see from the camera angle, but it really looks like a lot of the gold has gone into solution. There's not near as much powder on the bottom of the beaker anymore. Anyway, I just talked to the wife. Dinner is not imminent, so I'm going to give it another shot of acid and see if we can get some more to go into solution before I have to shut down for the night. Okay, now I've learned my lesson. There's a delay. So I'm going to wait before I put any more in. That's very strange. It's like the first shot, yeah, you get a little bit of a reaction, but not until you put the second one in. Does it really start to take off? That is so weird. But okay. At least I know about it now. Alright, so this probably will be the final addition of acid for today. However much gold dissolves, that's how much gold is going to dissolve today. And I'll probably shut this down, let it sit till tomorrow, and pick up again. Well, good morning. It's the next day. Left this on low heat overnight because it got chilly. It got really chilly overnight. I didn't want anything to come out of solution, crystallize out of solution, so I left it on the heat a little bit. So it was a little warm, but it's not hot. Reviewing the footage I shot last night, well, I got really crazy with the nitric acid additions there. And I came out here this morning thinking, okay, you've really over-nitriced it. You're going to find all of the gold in solution, and you're going to have to denox the heck out of it. You know, I do this all the time. I say I'm going to be conservative with the nitric acid. I get in a rush. I over-nitric it, and then I have to denox it. Well, I come out here and I look at it, and there's some debris left in the bottom of the beaker. And for the most part, it does not look like gold. I doubt that's really showing up very well on the video, but the stuff is not moving like gold. I mean, it's moving with the liquid. You know, and gold is 19 times heavier than water. And it's not going to be moved around too much by a little bit of jiggling. And if I shake it too much, this stuff goes, you know, forms a cloud in the liquid that takes a while to settle out. That's not gold. That's some sort of debris. But in the middle of that pile, yeah, see that? I hope that's showing up. There is a little bit of heavy stuff in there, in the middle of that pile of debris. It doesn't move with the rest of it, and when I tilt the beaker, it slowly slides down to the bottom side. Let me do it again, and I hope it's in decent focus. See all that debris in there moving around, but as I tilt it, suddenly the heavy stuff starts moving, and look at that. Yeah. I think there may still be a little bit of gold in there. Maybe I haven't over nitric this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back in the fume hood, back on the heat, and I'm just going to add a few drops of nitric acid to it and see if we get any kind of reaction from that heavy stuff down there. If I don't see any kind of reaction, I'll stop adding acid and I'll denox it. So we'll see how it goes. Oh, it's dark in the fume hood today. Need to get those lights fixed in there. Yeah, it's a gloomy winter day here in Florida. It's actually quite chilly too. I know you guys up north are like, oh, cry me a river. At least you're not up to your butt in snow. But it's been a dark, gloomy, chilly winter here in Florida so far. Unusually chilly. So, okay, I've got this back on the heat. I'm going to add just a few drops of nitric acid to it, and we'll see what happens. Not much. See if we get any kind of fume production or bubbling, because there is some heavy stuff in there. It could be just some sort of heavy debris, heavier than the general scum there on the bottom, but it could be gold. So we'll see what happens. I'll give that a little while to sit and cook, and you know, if nothing much happens, if that stuff doesn't go into solution, I'll call it done, and we'll denox it. I am making a saturated solution of sulfamic acid on my other hot plate outside the fume hood here. This will denox the solution really nicely. Sulfamic acid will convert any remaining nitric acid in here into sulfuric acid and just totally destroy the nitrate ions. So it's ready to go if needed. And so far I don't really see anything happening. I don't see any bubbling. Don't really see any fumage, but we'll give it some time. Alright, it's been maybe 45 minutes. I got busy doing other stuff and just let this sit. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't look like anything has happened. I didn't see any bubbling, I didn't see any fuming, and when I looked at it a little while ago, it still had those heavy particles in there. So I don't think that heavy stuff, whatever it is, I don't think it's gold. It's some kind of debris. So it's clearly not dissolving. So I would say the gold is all dissolved, and we've probably got some excess nitric in there. So it's time to denox it. Let me get the fume hood going. Because once I take the lid off, all this steam comes out. And, well, it's not nice stuff. Okay, got my saturated solution of sulfamic acid here. I'm going to add it real slowly, just in case we get sort of an eruption of bubbles. Oh yeah, there is some excess nitric there. The way sulfamic acid works is it reacts with the nitric acid in the solution and converts it to sulfuric acid and nitrous oxide gas. And the nitrous oxide comes out of solution. And if you do this with too heavy a hand, you'll have a massive boil over as all that nitric acid, all that nitrous oxide tries to come out of solution at once. You got to be careful. But you know what? after that first initial foaminess, there really isn't much reaction. I would say I probably did not add that much excess nitric, so that's a good thing. I'm going to give it another shot or two just to make sure. Just want to make sure I've killed all the nitric acid in there. So that when it comes time to drop the gold, I'm not fighting the nitric. One more shot. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Doesn't look like there's much any reaction going on there. Let me turn the heat off. Don't need that anymore. I'll take it off the heat and let it start cooling down. Next step is filtration. We're going to get all of that sludge on the bottom there that didn't dissolve out, and any sort of cloudiness in the liquid. Hopefully we'll capture that too, and we'll have a nice, clean, clear filtrate. So I'm going to get set up for vacuum filtration and let that cool down a little bit, and then we'll be back when we're ready for that. All right, we are set up for vacuum filtration. Kids across the street seem to have gotten a new ATV for Christmas, and today they've decided to just run the heck out of it. So hopefully they're not going to make too much noise for this. You don't have to vacuum filter. You can do gravity filtration with just a funnel and a filter paper, but I like to do gravity filtration. It's a lot quicker. And I'll tell you what, once you go gravity filtration, you'll never go back. You know, unless you just got a few milliliters of a liquid that's going to go through a funnel really easy. You don't feel like setting up the whole vacuum system. Otherwise, you know, it's just wonderful, especially for stuff that you know is going to clog your filter and it's going to be really slow. The vacuum pulls it through. My poor old vacuum pump here, it's on its last legs, it's dying. It actually seized up on me a while back. I took it apart, managed to get it spinning again. One of the fan blades is broken off, so it's running out of balance, shakes everything really bad, so I've got it on a piece of foam to sort of absorb the vibrations. I bought a new pump, but I'm going to run this one until it dies. Just, you know, and then I'll get as much life out of it as I can, then I'll get the new pump out and use it from then on. Okay, so we are ready to filter this stuff and get rid of all the gunk that's at the bottom. You get the pump going. Here we go. I don't know if that's showing up in the video. Let me look at the... Now you see how foamy it is down here? That's from the nitrogen dioxide gas in solution for when I denoxed it. In the partial vacuum here in the flask, it's coming out of solution. So I have to be careful that it doesn't foam up and go up out the side arm, because those bubbles will take liquid with them. And this is a really concentrated solution of gold. Remember, 22 grams of gold went in this. Every single drop of this has a significant amount of gold in it. So I don't want to lose even a drop. I got to be really careful here. So this is going to take a little while, even with the vacuum filtration, especially the last bit, because all the sediment down in there, that'll clog the filter. So I won't make you watch the whole thing. I'll do it a little bit at a time. And we'll be back in a second. Okay, got it almost all through. Here's the last little bit of liquid in here with a lot of sediment in it. This will probably clog the filter up pretty good and take a while to go through. Now remember what I said about every drop of this has a significant amount of gold in it, so we're going to make sure we get all of it out of the beaker. Pretty good. And then I'm going to wash this yellow color out of the filter here too. Because that yellow color in the filter, that's gold in solution. We're just going to try and get as much of it out as I can. Let that go through and rinse it some more. Alright, so this is a trick I've seen online and it works really good. The filtrate was not as clean as I would like. It's pretty cloudy. So I don't know what's clouding it up. Some of that fine debris in there may have been, it could have even been silver chloride. I don't know. But whatever it was, it made it through the filter the first time, but now the filter's partly plugged with debris, and the holes in it are a lot smaller and finer. So I'm just going to refilter it through the same filter again. And it's coming out much clearer now, because whatever debris came through the first time can't make it through the second time. Yeah, it's looking really nice and clear down here now. It was kind of cloudy before. So I'm just going to run it through again, rinse as much of the color out of the filter as I can, and we should be good. Alright, I've run it all through the filter again a second time. Let me show you what the filter looks like. See that gray mud in there? That is silver chloride. So what I have found is that sometimes with this gold I'm reprocessing, there's a little bit of silver in it still. And in the concentrated hot aqua regia, some of that silver gets converted into silver chloride. The silver chloride stays in solution to some extent. It is somewhat soluble in the hot concentrated aqua regia. But once it cools down, and or you start diluting it with distilled water, which is what I was doing here for rinsing, it's no longer soluble and it crashes out of solution. And it's fine enough that it can go through your filter at least the first time. But if you go and run it through the filter again, the filter pores are partly clogged up by then, and then it'll catch the silver chloride the second time through. So that's a really neat trick. So I've got this really nice clear filtrate now the second time through. Oh, and that is a beautiful color too. You can tell from that color. There's a lot of gold in that beaker. That's nice. So I've got to rinse the color out of the filter again, and then we'll be ready to drop the gold out of solution. I'll be back. Well, I've got a little bit more rinsing to do to get the rest of the color out of this filter, but I thought I'd show you the debris collected down in here so far. Not only is there a bunch of that gray silver chloride mud, but there's a lot of other little black particulates and brown particulates and who knows what. So it's good to get that stuff all out of the gold. The gold down in here is a lot purer than the gold I started with. It's going to be a little lighter, but a lot purer. Alright, I'll be back when it's time to drop the gold. Alright, it is time to precipitate the gold. And to do that, I'm going to add some sodium metabisulfite to it. I'm using a commercial product called Stump Out by Bonide, which contains sodium metabisulfite. It's a stump removing chemical. Now, if you go to your local home center store and look for stump remover, you're going to find lots of different types. Most of them do not have sodium metabisulfite in them. A lot of them are potassium nitrate, which has its own uses, but it will not precipitate gold from solution. So you got to get the bonied stuff with sodium metabisulfite, or buy some actual sodium metabisulfite online. It's used for lots of things. So it's available online in food grade, commercial grade, reagent grade, whatever you want. So the way this works, the sodium metabisulfite reacts with the acid in here and creates sulfur dioxide gas. The sulfur dioxide gas is what is actually going to make the gold come out of solution. There's a chemical reaction between the sulfur dioxide gas and the chloroauric acid, which we have in solution here, and the gold will come out of solution. So you could do this with just sulfur dioxide gas if you had a cylinder of that. But I don't have a cylinder of that. I'm going to use this, and we'll see if we can get that gold back out of solution. I'm going to get the fume hood going because the sulfur dioxide gas is just terrible. Of all the nasty smells involved with gold refining, this next step I think is the worst, the absolute worst. Now I'm going to close this door, so unfortunately it's going to kind of limit your view of what's going on. But basically, I'm going to put a lot of stump out in there until I see a characteristic color change to the liquid. There may be a lot of bubbling, which is why I've put it in a much larger beaker than we started out with, just so it doesn't bubble over. Here we go. The liquid's whoa, did you see that color change? That was amazingly quick. Amazingly quick. Probably because this is a really concentrated solution. I don't normally work with solutions this concentrated. I can still see that the bulk of the liquid still has a yellow color, but because that color change was clouds of very fine gold particles coming out of solution, and they sort of have a brown color to them when they're that fine. And that's what caused the color change. But I can still see there's a lot of yellow liquid there. So I'm going to keep adding it. Okay, one more. You're starting to get some white foam on top. So that tells me that the sulfur dioxide that's being produced is not immediately being used to precipitate any gold now. It's coming out of solution. So we probably got about enough in there, but I'm going to give it another spoonful. Yeah. I'm going to cap it, keep the sulfur dioxide in. I'm going to close this door, except the tripod leg's in the way. Sorry, I'm going to shake the camera. Close this door, and we're just going to let that sit for a while. In fact, I may let it sit overnight just to let all those fine gold particles that have precipitated out of solution settle to the bottom of the beaker. And then whatever liquid's left on top, we'll give it a stannous chloride test to see if there's any gold left in solution. If there is, we'll hit it with some more of this, just until we get a good clean stannous chloride test. Let me take the camera off the tripod and give you a close-up look at it. You saw what it looked like before. It was a clear orange liquid. I'll show you what it looks like now. Alright. So it was a clear orange liquid, now it's a brown muddy liquid. But that brown mud, that's gold. Close this door because a little bit of sulfur dioxide is leaking out. So that's good. That gold will settle over time, and we'll test it and see if we got it all out of solution. Well, it's the next day. The sun is actually trying to come out. It's playing hide and seek with the clouds, but it's out at the moment. Haven't seen the sun in a few days. The gold has all settled out of the liquid nicely. The liquid's nice and clear. There's slight greenish tinge to it. That's probably a little bit of leftover copper salts. That's good. Got rid of them. Not in the gold anymore. Let's take a look at it from the top. There's a lot of gold powder in the bottom of that beaker. Nice. It looks like good clean gold powder too. It's the right color. It's the right consistency. Kind of fluffy. Nice. I did a stannous chloride test on it. Didn't film it, so you have to take my word for it. Not a trace of purple, so there doesn't appear to be any gold left in the liquid, in solution. Of course, the solution is going to go in my stock pot anyway, so if there is a trace of gold in there, it won't get lost. Alright, what I need to do next is recover the gold. For that, I think I'm going to set up for vacuum filtration again. But first, what I will do, I think, is siphon off the bulk of the liquid, just to get rid of it, and then get the last little bit of liquid and the gold into a filter. Alright, I'll show you that when it happens. Alright, step one. I'm going to siphon the bulk of this liquid off into this old pitcher here. I siphoned all the liquids left over from precipitating gold off into this pitcher, and I let it sit for a few days before I dumped the bulk of the liquid off into my stock pot. And any small particles of gold left in the liquid drop to the bottom of the pitcher eventually. And there's quite a little coating of gold at the bottom of this pitcher that I need to recover eventually. So let me get set up for filtration here. I got to get this done quickly because there's a plumber on his way out. We got a little issue in the house. So let me get this siphoned off. Okay. This will go pretty quickly. And I am not trying to imitate this old Tony today with my black hoodie on here. And even though I do have a face for radio, I am letting you see it. So I'm really not emulating this old Tony. Love that guy, by the way. He's got a great channel. Maybe I should emulate him a little bit. But no, it's chilly out here, and I just happened to grab my black hoodie. It's already pretty much ruined after being splashed with chemicals in the past. Why ruin something new? I'm going to try not to suck up any gold with the end of the hose here, but if I do suck up a little bit, it'll wind up in the bottom of this pitcher and I'll recover it eventually. Won't go to waste. It's easier to get out of the bottom of this pitcher than it is out of the bottom of my stock pot. Okay, that's about as far as I want to go before I start sucking up any gold. So, okay. Next step is I'm going to set up the vacuum filtration setup, and I'm going to get this gold and the rest of this liquid into a filter. Back in a minute. All right, after an hour or so break dealing with a plumbing issue, we're back at it. All right, I'm going to get this gold out of here into this filter. Oh, that is some beautiful looking stuff in there. Yeah. All right. Let me get this into this filter. I'm going to rinse it a little bit. Start up the pump. Look at that, big slug of gold. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. All the gold's in the filter. I've got some muriatic acid here in the speaker. I'm just going to rinse the gold with a little bit of it, just to try and wash any nastiness out of it. Any remaining base metal salts. A little bit more. All right. Now I'm going to spritz it with some distilled water. Wash the acid out of it. Anything water soluble. Alright, that's some pretty clean gold in there. I'll grab the camera off the tripod in a second and give you a look at it. You spritz it a little bit more. And I'll let it sit here and let the suction dry it out some. Let me get the camera. That's a nice clean gold. Alright, so got nice clean gold in here. Next step, melt it down, right? Well, maybe not. We've got rid of the debris and the base metals that were in it. Problem is, it's still probably got some platinum group metals in it. And if I melt this down, it's still not going to be as pretty as it could be. I'm aiming for best purity I can get. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to dissolve this gold in aqua regia again, and then re-precipitate it using a different precipitant, not SMB again. Next time, I'm going to use copperas, or iron sulfate. But that's going to be the subject of part 2 of this video. My wife tells me my videos are too long, and she doesn't have the attention span to watch them all the way through. So I figure if my loving wife thinks they're too long, how many other people out there think they're too long? So I'm going to break this up into 2 parts. So part 2, or part B, we're going to do this again. We're going to dissolve this gold in aqua regia, filter it really well, get anything out of it that might be there still, and then we're going to re-precipitate it with copperas. And that should just bring the gold down out of solution and leave everything else behind. Then maybe I'll melt it down and make a little bar, and we'll weigh it up and see how much gold we have left after all this. Alright, well, thanks for watching this far. Part 2 will be out soon. Watch for it. If you found this video interesting, informative, educational, yeah, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to see future videos. And thanks again for watching. Have a good one. Keep it safe out there.